Hello and welcome to the March 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Thurston Regional Housing Council. I'm Carolyn Cox, the Lacey representative and council chair. And with me today is our acting city manager, Rick Walk, and our planning manager, Ryan Andrews. I think that's everybody from Lacey. So why don't we go to Tumwater and then Olympia.
Thanks, Carolyn. Michael Althauser, Tumwater City Council. I'm joined by Councilmember Joan Cathy, as well as Brad Medrud from our planning department. Happy to be here.
Great. And Olympia?
And I'm Danny Madrone with the Olympia City Council. And I believe it's just me and Darian Lightfoot today, our Director of Housing and Homelessness Programs.
Okay, great. And then Thurston County.
Good afternoon, Ramiro Chavez, County Manager. Commissioner Carolina Mejia is running a couple of minutes late, so she'll be joining us here. And with me this afternoon, I have Keely Merno. Thank you.
Awesome.
And with me is Tom Webster.
Oh, Keely and Tom.
Okay. And I'm seeing Jacinda Stelches is also joined from City of Olympia, so welcome, Jacinda. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry for interrupting. Chair Cox, I was just reminded that we did have a recommendation to add an item to the agenda this evening. And I believe Jacinda Stelges is there and can address that.
Thanks, Keely. Yeah, I was just getting to that.
Sorry.
That Tom was going to be requesting a change, but yes, we're all kind of off kilter here today. But people are different places. I also want to welcome Rich Hoy from Olympia to the meeting. Hi, Rich. And so this is on the stipends for advisory committee members. Is that correct, Jacinda?
Yes. Our City of Olympia, our legal has requested that the advisory board charter that was passed, I think, at the last meeting, have one very slight change or revision that basically changes the word policy to Regional Housing Council as approved a stipend. So when we get there, I can show you all that, but that is needed for us to pay the stipends.
All righty. Well, why don't we take that up and we work on the advisory board a little bit later in the meeting, but so I guess the motion should have been to approve the agenda as amended. If we could just make that quick clarification.
Well, I take back the motion I made and I make a new one to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, Mike's still good for the second. Okay, any other discussion on that? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Also want to recognize Gary Cooper from Yelm. Gary and I go way back. How are you?
Hi, Carolyn. I'm well, thanks.
Good to see you.
You too.
All right. I'm told that, well, let's get to the minutes first. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Any changes requested? Okay, if not, could I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
Move approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, you guys are getting a workout here. All righty. Without further ado, let's go ahead and vote on it. All in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I'm told that there is no public comment, but I want to just triple check that nobody else has joined the call and wants to join us. Ryan, are you seeing anything?
Nothing on my end.
Okay.
Nobody's registered, and I don't see that anything has come in.
Okay. Thank you. So do we have Josh and Chris ready?
Yeah, they're here. Let me go ahead and bring them in. Give me 1 second. I'm also going to bring in Grant Beck, and then Mark Daly, I believe, from TRPC was supposed to be here, but I don't see Mark. If Mark does show up, I'll bring him in as well. So give me 1 second here.
So this will be on the affordable housing allocation.
So we should have Josh and Chris now promoted to panelists. So keep going. Here we go.
All righty, you ready for us, Chair?
Yes, we are. Welcome.
Excellent. Thank you. I am Joshua Cummings. I'm the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. Here with me, we have Chris Chapeau, our Planning Manager for CPED. And just wanted to do a very quick informational only introduction to HB 1220. We've got other planning directors who joined us as well, but given this group has worked with these issues previously in coordination, we wanted to make sure that you were informed early. We are at the very early stages of this topic, but wanted to make sure, like I said, that there was an opportunity for us to engage directly and to ensure that questions that may arise are asked while we're doing the planning process. So thank you to TRPC and the other local jurisdictions for previously meeting on these topics, and just want to do like I said, a very quick introduction of what this is. There is no action needed for the RHC, and this is just to provide awareness. So I'm going to work to share my screen. Here. Okay, is that up?
Yes.
All right. So as I said, this is an opportunity for the state legislature, which passed HB 1220 in 2021 for local jurisdictions in their comprehensive planning process. Previously, when they were considering the housing element, Commerce had provided guidance to encourage planning for all economic segments of your jurisdiction, and HB 1220 now mandates that planning for all economic segments of jurisdictions. So that's a bit of a change, and so we want to make sure on a coordinated basis that we're all using some of the same information with all of our different comprehensive plans in terms of housing models, allocations, and projections. And so part of that process, as you can see, is considering these items as an overview. Commerce has provided the projections in terms of housing needs, moderate, low, very low, extremely low income households, permanent supportive housing, a lot of the items that you all are familiar with. We also need to demonstrate the land capacity to accommodate the housing and any racial disparate impacts that may be part of the housing process. So Commerce is not leaving us out in the wind. We are engaged with them in terms of guidance. There is potential for funding as we go through this planning process, and they will continue to help us with some of the items as we, over the next few months, work to have a coordinated effort on how we do our planning. HB 1220. We have met as a planning group on January 13th. We will continue to meet over the next few months. There's going to be more to come later this year as we work out the details using our community-wide planning systems and the potential scopes and our population projection. Sorry, I'm having to turn a little bit. The screen's got a little weird on me, so I'm looking at another monitor while I'm trying to present here. So this is more information on Commerce's guidance. This is a slide that essentially relates, we want to make sure the RHC is aware of the planning process, and each one of you partnering with your planning leaders to make sure that your jurisdiction's perspectives are included in our conversation over the next few months will be helpful. So this is data provided by TRPC on permanent supportive housing projections, the housing need that we're using as some of the data points. Just want to make sure you knew that these data points were part of our discussion process. This is the share of allocation needs. Again, great data provided by TRPC. Appreciate that. And one of the big points that we're going to be working to discuss is how the allocation is processed. Commerce has provided two methodologies. You'll see there, one is method A that takes a look at the housing spread currently and everybody taking a similar percentage. That would be 55% for our group, for our region, a county. And then method B does a more specific approach based on other input and data. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about within our group is it method A or method B or a potential hybrid somewhere between those two methods that meets the needs of our region. And really that's it. I know it's not super detailed as we're at the very beginning of this process, but it's important from my perspective that the county got to the RHC early to ensure that you knew this conversation was happening. And there's a couple of there are folks on this call that are SMEs in this area. So if there's anything that anyone else would like to add as we're at this early stage, I think that would be welcome to open it up.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Well, let's start with our subject matter experts. Brad, do you have anything you'd like to contribute on this?
Well, just very shortly, thank you, Josh, for presenting that to the RHC. And I will be supplemented by others who are having these conversations, but the planning managers and so forth for all the jurisdictions have been meeting to discuss this issue. We're working with potentially contracting with Thurston Regional Planning Council to help us with the technical side of all this. And I think really for the RHC's purpose and benefit, we're really, once the housing allocation process itself is done, I think we will be immediately turning to the RHC and the RHC experts for talking about how we're actually going to make all this work, because it is clear that we have a private housing market that provides by far the majority of all the new housing units in the county. But there's also going to be a far more need, especially as part of our comprehensive plan, for discussing public options for funding, especially on the low end of the affordable housing market. And that is right up the purpose of the Regional Housing Council to deal with that issue. So we will be bringing this back. It'll be in a different format, but we will definitely be talking about that over this next couple of years, I think.
Okay. Any Grant or Ryan, do you all want to add to this?
Nothing else from Lacey. I think Brad summed it up really well there, that really the important part of this for the RHC is, this will add to your, will give you additional input when it comes to your funding decisions down the road, when it comes to especially those that are in the most need in our community. So, stay tuned. I think this is really, great information that will help inform the RHC's decision-making here in the future.
Okay. Have I missed anybody? Christina, did you want to say anything? Okay. Any questions of our planners? Well, you all are easy today.
Oh, sorry to throw a wrench in it. I put my hand up.
All right, here's Danny.
So just in this presentation, let me just ask this. So there's a decision to be made between two different methods of how this body of work will move forward, how the distributions will shake out. How does that decision get made? There's not enough information in front of me quite yet to really even understand what that means. But what's the process to make that decision? Who makes it? And what, and I know you said you'll come back with more information, but if you have a sense of timeline, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, so the first question, it's not an either or on method A or method B from what we understand. There is a potential for a hybrid, and we'll have a conversation within the planning group of the details of what those projections in the housing allocation may look like. In terms of timing, the conversation is really driven by the different jurisdictions' needs for their comprehensive plan process. And so if jurisdictions are trying to complete their comp plan sooner, that'll be part of the discussion we'll be having on timing. So I guess more to come. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that question, but I see Brad's hand went up and Mark came on the screen. So maybe they've got more to add.
As did Grant.
Brad and then Mark.
Yeah, I'll be very quick on what I have. Councilmember Madrone, I think one of the big issues is we will be definitely following the countywide planning policies, which sort of guide the whole comprehensive planning process from the bare bones, meaning how we allocate population, how we allocate housing and all that. So the process is sort of spelled out in those already. The timing of all that will depend upon how quickly we reach agreement on what option or a hybrid of an option that we want to propose. And then that option will come before the councils and the commission for their approval, because that's their role to grant that before we commit that to using that as part of our larger planning process.
So each of the jurisdictions then gets to decide, okay, thank you. That was the thrust of my question right there.
Thanks, Brad. I'll let you answer first next time. Mark, go for it, Mark.
Chair, I will just say that Brad said exactly what I turned on my camera to help to say. So now I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks and welcome, Mark. Thank you for being with us.
I would just...
I guess the only thing I will add is, I'm sorry, when we met earlier this week, I committed to TRPC providing a proposal to the planning directors for the process to getting to the point where councils and commissions and the commissioners are taking a vote to approve the housing allocations. And so I've actually got a scoping meeting with my staff tomorrow to talk about that.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Yes.
And welcome.
Councilmember Cox, can I?
Yes, please.
The only thing I'd add is that this process outlined in the countywide planning policies we've been using since the Growth Management Act has been adopted, and that was the guidance from Commerce, is to use the existing processes that we've had in place for the population allocations for the affordable housing allocations. So it's a process that we're all familiar with. Some of us, Mike and Rick and I, have been through it a number of times now. So, and TRPC's led that effort every time, so they've got a lot of experience with it too. And so as a region, it's a process we've used very successfully and collaboratively. So thank you.
Gather that's going to get worked out amongst the planners, and then they'll come back with recommendations on which path forward. Okay. Anybody else have a question on this? Concerns? Head scratching? Okay. Well, Josh and Mark and Christina, thank you so much for being with us, and Grant. So I guess we'll move on, if that's all right with everybody. Okay. Okay, the next item, and do we have Keely and Tom within?
Tom is just been delivered to Public Health and Social Services, and I am on my way home, but I'm here on my on AirPods in my car. Yeah.
Would you like for Jacinda to go first and let you and Tom catch up?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we do that?
All right. So the Affordable Housing Advisory Board, we met for the first time last week. What day is today? Last Thursday. It had a good turnout. All of our members were able to attend either in person or virtually, primarily in person. Lots to kind of go over and onboarding and, getting everyone caught up to speed. But for the most part, it went really well. Everyone's really excited to be involved. Very eager to kind of see where the boards take us and what the Regional Housing Council would like for them to work on. So overall went really well. Certainly lots to kind of still figure out and work through, but for everything that needed to happen in a short amount of time, we were pleasantly surprised, and everyone was really excited to be there and play a part. And we might have a few from our board that are sitting in, watching in, and then just as a reminder, actually I'm not sure if we've shared with you all or not, both of the boards, the Affordable Housing and I believe the Homeless Services, O'Keely can speak to that in a little bit. We will be, or those boards, the members will be electing a chair and vice chair this next month in their April meeting. So we should have the chairs joining us, depending on what our schedule does here in late April or early May, as RHC non-voting members. So you all will see their faces very soon. And if we want to share a little bit about homeless services, and then I can jump back in to cover the stipend issue if we want to do that.
Sure, I'd be glad to. So the Homeless Services Advisory Board met for the first time on Monday of this week. Everyone was able to join us in person, which was great. And we also had a really successful meeting. We spent a lot of time, just kind of setting the tone and understanding what it is that we're doing, clarifying questions that they had, and preparing them for the ominous task of getting ready to review quite a number of applications that will be coming in here when our grant, grant applications close on the 31st of March, and the following week they will begin that process. So we spent some time figuring out and strategizing how to split up that work, as some of them are, every one of them works, or this is a volunteer part of their life, and reading 40 or 50 applications and then scoring them thoughtfully takes a significant amount of time and energy. So we're hoping to come up with a way that will meet the needs that we have for review and scoring, and also lighten the load a little bit on the advisory board by grouping them into review teams. So looking forward to working with this group. It's a very diverse, truly diverse group in terms of people ranging in age, people ranging in profession. I think all but a few have lived experience at one point in experiencing homelessness, and it's just a really interesting, great group of individuals, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Nice. Before we move on to the stipends, does anybody have questions of Jacinda or Keely?
Yeah, really quick. So the members who are joining us, the non-voting members, are the chairs of the two boards. Is that right? They can't, they're not just general members selected as representatives. They're doing double duty as chairs.
Yes, it would be the chairs.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? I guess I would ask both Jacinda and Keely whether you think you'll have your chairs elected by our first meeting in April, or whether it would be the second meeting.
Yeah, the Affordable Housing Advisory Board, we're currently scheduled for April 20th, I believe, to elect chairs. That would be later in the month.
Okay. Trying to get a look at April here. So our second meeting would be on the 26th. So we'll plan on that.
Do we need to wait for Yelm to pass the ILA before they can join? Because they're the jurisdiction that hasn't passed it yet.
The amendment to the ILA?
Yeah.
Yeah, they already passed it.
Oh, okay. I thought we said earlier that they're about to. Sorry, I misheard.
Oh, good question, though.
Yeah, all jurisdictions have passed, just circulating for signature.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about the groups themselves? Okay. Well, why don't we move on to the stipend discussion here? Jacinda?
Yeah. So I will explain, and then I can also, I think, yeah, it looks like I can share screen. So just very, very briefly, just to remind everyone, I think it was the last Regional Housing Council meeting, you all made final revisions and adopted the charter for the boards, both boards. And that charter as adopted had some language that actually I can share here, and then you all can see it. All right. So you guys, oh geez. Am I coming through, or did I freeze?
We see you now.
Okay. All right. So the city of Olympia agreed to pay stipends to the board members who chose to opt into a stipend for board meetings. And the city agreed to do that since we already have a policy and are able to do that. So as we're working through trying to get board members all their paperwork kind of approved, our legal team jumped in and said, actually, we need to have this charter revised just a tad. So the charter was passed very recently with this language that says a policy regarding stipends will be approved by the Regional Housing Council. And our legal team is wanting to change it to the Regional Housing Council has approved an optional stipend in the amount of $50 per meeting per board member. So this is a very, kind of surface level change, but our legal felt like it was needed to take out this language regarding a policy being adopted or drafted, since we haven't drafted that policy, in order to pay those stipends in a quick fashion, since we are up and running now. So the ask today is for the charter, this revised charter with this language is the only change, to be approved to allow us to continue on with the stipend intent and to pay individuals, board members who choose to opt into that for their time at board meetings, which again are approximately once a month, about 90 minutes.
Okay. One question I have is, if the group decides to go forward with this, what is the process? Do we all have to go back and vote again on the charters?
I think our legal is asking for minutes that show that this revision has been approved by this group, instead of the Regional Housing Council approving a policy around stipends, that you all are essentially approving a stipend through approving this charter in its revised form.
Okay. I see Danny's hand raised.
I have a question. Since the chairs are going to be serving as non-voting members of the RHC, are they also compensated for those meetings?
For the Regional Housing Council meetings, or I believe that those meetings would be, I believe so. I can clarify that. And that again would be if they chose to opt in as well. Not everyone might choose to opt to receive a stipend.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good to get clarification on that. But either way, I'm fine with this as it's written.
Okay. A little hard to see the group. So questions, and just sing out because I can't see everybody with the screen.
I have a question, Carolyn. So we've approved an optional stipend. So it's optional for the people who would be receiving the stipend. That language doesn't mean it's optional for the RHC to offer it. We have to offer it, correct? Like that's the intent of the language, is that it's optional for a recipient to choose whether they want to receive it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Again, just sing out. Okay. I just want to make sure we're all comfortable with this and maybe hear from Rick or Ryan whether you all think process-wise we need to do anything other than to vote on this clarification, or whether we need to run this back through our jurisdictions.
I think this is a charter that's a charter and policy established by the RHC. And so I think it's just a matter of the RHC making a motion and accepting the amendments as they're proposed.
Okay, thank you. It's trying to make this way too hard. All righty. Any other questions, concerns?
I have a comment, Carolyn.
Please do.
I think Michael's question actually might make it so that might make it necessary that this needs to be clarified a little bit for future people reading this particular sentence.
Can you say a little more about that?
Well, I mean, it does read it's option. It's not clear in the sentence who it's optional for is all I'm saying. I mean, it'd be a very minor change, but to just make sure that it's clear that it's optional for the recipient and not for the RHC.
Okay.
Would the preference of the board be to take out reference to optional?
I think it would be, I think we could just say, what if it was just the RHC has approved a stipend in the amount of $50 per meeting for advisory members, the stipend shall be optional and do not have to take it or something. All right. You know, I don't want to wordsmith on the phone, but you know, that would be one way, is like we have approved it and then it's optional and people can decline it.
So I will add, this was added to the agenda today because the boards have already started meeting. Our legal originally said they were fine with stuff. So we want to make sure that board members are being compensated for their time, as we've told them they would. To add an extra layer of complexity, the city pays out quarterly in stipends. So stuff needs to be wrapped up by the end of this month, so that those who have attended in March will, and who opt to receive the stipend, will get paid for their time. So okay. I know, I don't want to wordsmith on the go either, but having something to approve tonight is needed.
Okay, well, I asked that question kind of knowing what the answer was, just so that the intent could be on the record about what we're trying to do. Like, I'm comfortable with the language as is, because we've established in the record in this meeting what we're intending to do, that the stipend is optional for recipients of the stipend, not optional for future councils to take or to withhold at their whim. So I'm comfortable with this language, but if we wanted to delete optional, so it just says they've approved a stipend in the amount of $50 per meeting for advisory board members, and then have a sentence that says the stipend shall be optional for advisory board members. I think that adds clarity, but if you think we would have to run that by legal again, then I think we should just approve it as is, because I don't want to delay in getting things out the door that have been described as what we want to do, which this is what we want to do. It's just a matter of making sure that, we achieve this now and then also have clarity for future councils.
My sense is that if we added a sentence, we would have to run it by legal, but I would also say they are aware of our timeline as well, and aware that we're adding this today. So if that's what everyone feels comfortable with, I feel confident that we can still get it turned around in the next day or two from them and to our members, for them to finish all of their paperwork by the end of the month.
I guess I'm looking at Carolyn and Danny to see what you guys think. What you both think, rather. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying about if we do a change, you still think legal would have time to bless it?
Yeah, so our legal is aware that we're working on a short time frame. I don't know what our attorneys, what's on her calendar to look at in the next few days, but she knows that we were working on this today and bringing it tonight. So I feel confident that I could send it to her, after we get done talking about it, and ask if this additional sentence, if that's the way the board chooses to go, is okay, and have a response back to her still in time to get everything we need.
Okay. Carolina, you have your hand up?
Yeah, and so I saw Jacinda's email earlier today, but I guess this question is more for Amira. I mean, does our legal need to review it? Since this was already like a board, from the Board of County Commissioners, they took an action, and I believe all their councils have taken an action as well. And then this is an amendment to that.
I don't believe so. The change is just clarifying the intent, and it is a policy regarding the stipends. So, the language seems okay as it was presented. I think the intent has already been clarified. So my recommendation is just to move forward on this proposal and close the loop.
Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Just I wanted a point of clarification. So for the charter, the city councils approved the interlocal agreement that references the charter, but I don't believe that each council took action on the charter itself. So only the RHCs approved the charter. They approved, the councils approved the interlocal agreement, which calls for a charter, but individual councils have not taken specific action on the charter itself. So I think it is appropriate for the RHC to make an amendment without needing to go back to councils or the commissioners.
Yeah. Thank you for clearing that up. All righty. So if Olympia Legal and Rich is here, if you have anything you want to say about this, Rich, do you think?
No, I have nothing further to add. Jacinda's covered it.
Okay. Carolina, is this a new hand raise?
No, I just never lowered it.
Okay. Danny?
Can I recommend that, since, you know, Michael's the one who brought it up and said he's also okay with it as it is, like the risk of changing it now is that what if legal says no? So do you mind if I just go ahead and make a motion to approve it as it's drafted in front of us, since there seems to be a consensus that it's good enough?
Yeah, I'd be happy to second that. Like I said, I just wanted to clarify the intent for the record. So that'll be in the minutes. I think our intent is sufficient for showing what it means.
Excellent. I move that we approve this revision to the charter as drafted in front of us.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of the change, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Gary, appreciate your comment on this, and I hope you can live with heartburn on this.
Well, I didn't realize it was going to be that much of an issue, so I have no problems whatsoever, and probably should have just kept my mouth shut.
No, it's always good if you've got something to speak up. So I just didn't want you to think your words were going without being heard here. All right. Anything else on advisory boards before we move on to our meeting schedule? Okay, Tom, that's you, right?
That's me. So last meeting, we talked about a revised meeting schedule, which included continuing our twice a month meetings up through May. And then in June, switching to once a month meetings, and then alternating having those meetings in person. And then the other change was in May, moving the May 10th meeting to make that an in-person meeting for 2 hours, since that's when we're going to be looking at the funding recommendations coming from the advisory boards, and having the second meeting be a 1 hour meeting. So we talked about that last meeting. You wanted a little bit of time to sit on that before kind of taking formal action and moving forward that schedule. So just wanted to bring it up to you again to see if you're ready to move forward, or if there was any questions, concerns, or adjustments that folks wanted to make to the proposed meeting schedule. And I can share that on my screen if that's helpful, because I know it was not in your meeting packet this time.
Yeah, that probably would help, Tom.
Okay. All right, so hopefully you can see that. With the principle being that RHC members would do their best to attend in person, but a virtual option would be available if in-person attendance is not possible.
Carolyn, can I ask a question?
Please, yeah.
So May 10th, I cannot be in person. I can attend virtually. Clark is available to attend in person, but I can't. And I recall, Carolyn, that you had a conflict because that meeting's longer and I think you have to head off somewhere else. So I'm wondering if virtual might work better for you, and if it's the case where virtual works better for two of us on that day, that maybe we start a little bit later with going back in person. Just want to put it out there.
Yeah, it does make it a little tough. I can miss the part of the lot meeting, but the business meeting is hard to miss. So how about everybody else though? Because once we get to June, it'll be fine. It's just the May 10th one that I may just have to send a surrogate to the lot meeting. Anybody else have?
These all look great to me, except for August 23rd, where I will be abroad, but otherwise these look great.
Okay. Well, hopefully Joan can represent Tumwater.
Yeah.
All right. And then to clarify, these will be at the atrium?
Yes.
Okay. The ones that are in person.
The ones that are in person, yes. We've booked scheduled the boardroom at the atrium for the in-person meetings.
Okay. All righty. Well, shall we bless this then?
Can I check in on, like, it's fine if others don't agree, but what do you all think of starting the in-person later on and doing the main meeting as virtual?
You know, well, I'd like for Tom to speak to that. Do you think, how hard do you think it would be to do this totally virtual?
Certainly possible. We've done it for the last little bit now. I think there is, when we're making funding recommendations, doing that in person, I think it makes for a more natural conversation. The back and forth is a little easier than on Zoom. So I think because there are funding recommendations, doing it in person would be preferred, but certainly doing it virtually is certainly possible. We've done it before. So it really is up to the preference of the board and what's going to work best for this group. And certainly doing a hybrid can also create some difficulties with some people in person and some people hybrid. So
yeah, I think we ought to do all or none on that, particularly that one. So Michael, how do you and Carolina feel about that? I could go either way.
I have no preference. Either works for me. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
All right. Well, I think to honor what Danny is saying here, we probably ought to just make that one a all virtual meeting.
Thank you.
And start our in-person ones in June then. And for our April 26th agenda, I'd like us to think a little bit about how we welcome our advisory board chairs to the meeting, since it is going to be virtual and they won't be meeting with us in person until late June. So perhaps the executive committee can take that up and we can think about that a little bit more. But I think it's important that they feel welcomed and a part of the team. Anybody have thoughts on that? Okay.
I'm willing to put some thought into that before now and then. And if I come up with something, I'll reach out to you.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Do you want to have a motion and vote on this schedule, or can we just say we've approved it?
Yeah, I don't have a strong preference, whatever your preference is and what you think is appropriate. We will post this to our website so it becomes public knowledge, and so the public is aware of
all right.
Time.
Well,
so
we probably ought to go through a quick motion and approval then. So can I have a motion to approve the proposed 2023 meeting schedule? As
so moved. Oh, sorry.
Okay, with that change, so it's in there. Okay. Yeah. All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you. Whew. All right. So I know the agenda schedule says we go to 6 on good of the order, but I promise you we won't do that. But I do want to see if anybody has anything they'd like to share for good of the order. Darian?
Yeah, I want to just make the announcement that the Franz Anderson Tiny Home Village RFP has been launched. It launched on Friday of last week, looking for an operator for the 50-unit tiny home village under the state's right-of-way initiative. So that is live. Applications are due April 17th. We will be reviewing those applications the week after and making the selection, and hopefully will be entered into a contract by late May for that provider. So just wanting to announce that. Please help us advertise the RFP on your social media or any other listservs that you all have available. We would really, really appreciate casting a broad net. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Just want to say again, it's due on April 17th. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Darian. Jacinda?
Yeah, we'll continue the Franz Anderson talk. The solicitation of interest for the permanent supportive housing, that's the West Parcels, is out now. That closes on the 27th. So that's next Monday. And then we'll immediately move into reviewing those proposals and scoring them. And do want to remind you all that we have a representative from each of the jurisdictions participating in that scoring process. And then out of that, we will update this board on the selected development team and move on to the city council as well in May, and then individual Lacey and Tumwater in the county if needed, if desired, updates to those bodies as well. So that's moving right along, closes next Monday at noon.
Great, thank you.
A couple of things from Lacey to mention.
Yeah, please do.
So first of all, we're excited that we are moving forward with interviews for a housing coordinator position. The interviews are going to be held on Friday. So we have 5 good candidates there. So moving forward with that, we're happy that the city council put forward a couple new positions in this year's budget, and we're happy to get those positions filled. The other item is related to Maple Court, the former Days Inn. Just a brief update there. As I think everybody's probably aware, the remediation is underway related to some of the contamination in the building. They do have residents still living there and are moving them around while they do the remediation. And once the remediation is finished, we'll be taking those residents and putting them into the newly cleaned areas. That remediation is expected to take about 12 weeks. I think we're in week 2 now, so we still have about 11 weeks left to go. I do also know that they are, through Lehigh, establishing a community advisory group, standing that up. And I believe the first meeting for that community advisory group is this coming Monday. So that's it for Lacey.
Okay. Well, I hope this isn't going to interfere with our first April meeting, but we're going to be interviewing city manager candidates that first week of April. We've been asked to block the 10th, 11th, and 12th on our calendars, but hopefully our council is going to be working on that schedule tomorrow night. So I'll share more when we know it. Anybody else have good of the order?
I see Gary has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. Gary?
Hey, Carolyn. Yeah, I meant to introduce myself. I've known half of you forever, and half of you I don't know at all. So I'm the planning building manager at City of Yelm, and I'm just getting involved with the RHC. I really don't know your charter, but I know that we have a comp plan update, housing action plan, development code amendments, all these things we're doing that I'm hoping by sitting in and listening to what you guys are doing, they're going to help us. So I think Todd's been participating, but I plan to participate going forward.
Yay. Well, great. Welcome to the group. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, why don't we go and enjoy the sunshine and the warmth. And we'll see you in a few weeks. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.